Buy Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, hands tied. Ex-TID director reveals political and NGO interference in investigations. Not an easy task. The Cabinet co-spokesperson says PUCSL closure can only happen through an act of parliament after consumer groups voice opposition. Stay in school. Unicef urges rethink of school closures, citing a compounding of the pandemic's societal cost. A cleaner beginning. Sri Lanka's largest wind power plant, Thambapavani, opens, adding over 103 megawatts of clean power to the national grid. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 8th of December, 2020.
Nava sunlight sakura. Then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanayaka. Now, the United Nations Children's Agency, Unicef, has urged governments across the world to rethink school closures, warning that doing so would only compound the societal cost of the pandemic. The UN agency's advisory is based on the results of a study that showed no association between school status and COVID-19 infection rates in the community.
With many schools in the country having been closed down in the wake of the COVID-19 threat, United Nations Children's Agency UNICEF says that this may be the wrong way to go about it. With over 320 million children locked out of conventional education systems by the beginning of this month, the agency says that closing down more schools only serves to further compound the societal cost of the pandemic. UNICEF adds that school closures did not help in the COVID-19 fight, but simply removed a system that provided children with support, food and learning. With that, the UN Children's Agency advised governments that instead of shutting them, they should instead prioritize school reopenings and make classrooms as safe as possible. UNICEF Global Chief of Education Robert Jenkins says that what the agency has learned about schooling during the time of COVID is that the benefits of keeping schools open far outweighs the cost of closing them, and nationwide closures of schools should be avoided at all costs. The agency cited a recent study using data from 191 countries published by an independent non-profit foundation which showed no association between school status and COVID-19 infection rates in the community. The agency says that November saw a 38% jump in the number of children affected by school closures after a big wave of reopenings the previous month. It added that reopening plans must include expanded access to education, including remote learning and rebuilding education systems to withstand future crises. The UN has co-authored a framework for reopening schools with practical advice covering areas such as policy reform, financing requirements, safe operations and reaching the most marginalized children who are most likely to drop out of school altogether.
Safeguard hand sanitizer නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නීරෝගිමත් දිවයකට ලංකාවේ පළමු වරට හඳුන්වා දෙන මැලිබන් වෙජි ක්‍රැකර්
Crunchy veggie.
Now, Sri Lanka's COVID-19 death toll continues to rise as fatalities surpassed 140, with 2 more being reported. In terms of new cases, 703 were reported throughout the island yesterday, with 466 attributed to the Minuangoda and Paliagoda clusters, while the remaining 237 were detected from the Presence cluster. With that, the Colombo district yet again accounted for the highest cases with 371.
The country's COVID-19 fatalities continue to rise ever since the second wave hit the island, catching the people unawares. As a result, Sri Lanka's COVID-19 death toll surpassed 140 yesterday after 2 more fatalities were added to the tally. Both victims were men and they were aged 62 and 77. According to the Department of Government Information, the cause of death of one of the victims is COVID-19 pneumonia, while the other victim was a diabetic who had died of septicemia. In the meantime, 703 COVID-19 patients were confirmed from the island yesterday. 466 of them were linked to the Minuwangoda and Palyagoda clusters, while the remaining 237 were attributed to the prisons cluster. The Colombo district yet again accounted for the most number of daily COVID-19 cases, reporting 371 infections yesterday. The Gampa and Kalutara districts meanwhile confirmed 102 and 64 infections respectively. The number of daily cases in the Ampara district saw a hike yesterday with 51 fresh cases. There were only 2 cases from the district the day before. What's more, 9 other districts reported 115 more cases. With these infections being reported, the country's overall number of active COVID-19 cases shot up to 7,180. That said, the number of coronavirus recoveries in Sri Lanka ever since COVID-19 was first reported in the island in March stands at 21,258.
Now, Sri Lanka's largest wind farm, Tamba Pavani, was declared open today under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The wind farm, constructed by the Ceylon Electricity Board, is expected to add over 103 megawatts of clean electricity to the national grid. The project is an investment of approximately $141 million.
Sri Lanka's largest wind farm, constructed by the Ceylon Electricity Board in the northern eastern region of Mannar, was declared open today by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The wind farm, dubbed Tamba Pavani, was built by the CEB with a $140 million credit from the Asian Development Bank. Comprising of 30 wind turbines, each capable of producing 3.45 megawatts, the wind farm could supply more than 380 million units of clean electricity to the national grid annually. The Mannar wind farm project began in March 2014 with the cabinet approval. Built on the southern coast of Mannar Island, which faces both major monsoon winds, the Mannar wind farm will be operated as a semi-dispatchable power plant supported with advanced wind forecasting system to optimize and control the wind-generated electricity to the national grid. The wind plant, which is located on a key Asian bird migration path, is equipped with radar that can detect flying flocks and shut down the turbines. The project is also planned in line with the government's policy target to achieve 20% non-conventional renewable power generation by the year 2020. Taking part at the opening ceremony, State Minister of Solar Power, Wind and Hydropower Generation Projects Development, Duminda Dissanayake, said that the new facility can produce 1 unit of electricity at a cost of just 8 rupees.
මන්නාරමට එනකොට මම දැක්කා මේ අවට සියලු පාරවල් කාපට් කරනවා. ඩග්ලස් දේවානන්ද මෙතුමා කිව්වා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලේ මෙම ව්‍යාපෘතියෙන් තමයි කිලෝමීටර් 20ක් අවට පාරවල් කාපට් කරන්න කියලා. විදුලි බලය ලබා දීමට යම් කාලයක් ගත වූ බව ඔබ දන්නවා. තැතම් පාලන සමයන්හිදී දුරදිග නොබල කළ ක්‍රියාකාරක විදුලි බල ශේෂ්ත්‍රයේ දියුණුවට බාධාවක් එක්කලා ගියොත් ඒක නිවැරදි. විරුද්ධ පක්ෂ ඇතමෙක් අර ළඟදී ආපු සුලිකුණාටුවට රටට එන්නත් කලින් ඒ කියන්නේ අනාගතයේ කිව්වයි කියලා ඔබට මතක ඇති. එයා බලා උන්නේ ජනතාවට විපත්‍යක් වෙලා ආණ්ඩුවට පනින්න මාතෘකාවක් හදා ගන්නද කොහොමද කියලා තමයි තා බලාගෙන හිටියේ. ඒ වගේ පටු දේශපාලන අරමුණු දැන්වත් මේ රටින් ඉවත් විය යුතුයි කියලායි ජනතාව දැන් කල්පනා කරන්නේ. සෞභාග්‍ය දැක්මට අනුව 20යි වන විට අපේ රටේ සමස්ත විදුලියෙන් 70%ක 80ක පුනර්ජනනීය බල ශක්තිය මත රඳා පැවතිය යුතුයි. විදුලි බල ශේෂ්ත්‍රයේ සිදුවන හැම දැවැන්ත පරිවර්තනයට ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ විශාලතම සුළං විදුලි බලාගාර උද්‍යානයේ ඉතිහාසයේ හැරවුම් ලක්ෂයක් බව සිහිපත් කරන්න කැමැතියි.
Former director of the Terrorist Investigation Division, DIG Nalaka De Silva, told the Presidential Commission probing the Easter string of attacks that his division's investigations faced serious pressure from the CID and non-governmental organizations. DIG Nalaka Silva was suspended over an alleged plot to assassinate former President Maithripala Sirisena. The former DIG revealed that after being introduced to plot informant Namal Kumara, he had refused to deal with him after becoming convinced that the information being provided was blatantly false.
Suspended former Terrorist Investigation Division Director DIG Nalaka De Silva appeared before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday attacks today. At the outset, the Commission questioned the former TID director on recorded conversations between himself and Namal Kumara, following which the recordings were played to the Commission. The former TID director told the Commission, I was first put in touch with Namal Kumara by IGP Pujit Sundara. These recordings have sections at the beginning, the middle and the end missing. Namal Kumara's voice is there, but what I said is missing. An informant cannot try to behave like a superior. After a while, I became convinced that he was lying. It became clear to me that he was doing this solely for monetary gain. None of the names on those recordings were first mentioned by me. They were instead responses I gave in my attempts to find out the truth in his statements. The former DIG was then questioned over another of the audio recordings played to the Commission, in which Namal Kumara can be heard speaking of a plot to assassinate former Special Task Force Commandant Emmar Latif. To this he replied, "Right after this conversation, I slapped Namal Kumara and threw him out of my vehicle. I then called the IGP and told him that I couldn't work with such an arrogant person." Following another recording being played to the Commission, the former DIG asked the Commission chairman, "I would like to know what is the connection between these recordings and the Easter attacks." The Commission chairman replied, "Nilantha Jayawardena told the Commission that there was some friction between you and him. Due to this, there was no smooth flow of intelligence information. These recordings were submitted to the Commission by him to substantiate those claims." In response, former DIG De Silva stated, "These recordings were in the possession of Namal Kumara. It was him who released these to the media and handed them over to the CID. Hence, it begs the question as to how they came into Nilantha Jayawardena's possession." Following this, the former TID director's legal representative commenced his cross-examination by asking him, "Did Criminal Investigation Department Senior DIG Ravi Senaviratna and its director Shani Abesekara, who were in charge of the department during your tenure, influence your investigations at the Terrorist Investigation Division?" In response, the former DIG revealed, Ravi Senaviratna and Shani Abesekara did exert influence at times. Such influence went as far as being politically motivated as well. There were certain individuals from a prominent non-governmental organization in the CID during that time. If required, I will write down a list of their names for you. We were pressurized by human rights organizations over any arrests we made. I asked the IGP for a team of trainees to assist in our investigations. Shortly after this, I was arrested. After this, my team was questioned as well. The investigating officer in my team who was in charge of the file on Zaran Hashim is today in a mental hospital.
Now, State Minister of Money, Capital Market and State Enterprise Reforms Ajit Niwad Cabral today made clear that the long-standing bilateral relations between Sri Lanka and Japan remain unaffected despite the cancellation of the Colombo Light Rail Transit project. He made this remark in response to a question posed by Leader of the Opposition Sajith Premadasa during today's parliamentary sitting.
රජයේ මෙම LRT ව්‍යාපෘතිය අවලංගු කිරීමට තීරණය කර ඇතනම් ව්‍යාපෘතිය සඳහා මෙතෙක් සිදු කරන ලද වියදම් සඳහා රජයට සිදුවන මූල්‍ය පාඩුව කොපමණද?
එතුමා සමහරක් විට තේරුම් ගත නැති දේ තමයි අවුරුදු 52කින් යම්කිසි මුදලක් ගෙවනකොට පිටරට මුදල් වෙන්නේ. ඒකේ තියෙන රිස්ක් එක. ඒකේ තියෙන අවදානම කොපමණද කියලා. අවුරුදු 52කට ඔබට ගියා නම් ජපනීස් යෙන් එක කීයද කියලා බලන්න. පොලි අනුපාතයේ මත පමණක් නෙමෙයි මේවා අලදා පවතින්නේ.
මම ඔබතුමාට කියන්න කැමතියි හම්බන්තොට වරාය හම්බන්තොට ගුවන්තොටුපළ හදනකොට ණය පොලිය ගත්තේ 106යි. අවුරුදු 20කින් ගෙවන්න.
ඔබතුමා කියනවා 106යි කියලා මම ඒක පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ. ඊට වඩා පොඩ්ඩක් අඩුයි. 103යි. ඇවරේජ් ඒක කෙසේ වුණත් ඔබතුමා මතකද ඔබතුමාගේ රජය 2018 අප්‍රේල් මාසයේ ඉඳලා 2019 ජූනි මාසයේ වෙනකම් මාස 15ක කාලයක් තුලදී ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් මිලියන 6900ක් 107.8ක පොඩියට ගත්තා. අවුරුදු 10කට හම්බන්තොට වරායවල් 6ක් හදන්න පුළුවන් මුදල. ඔබතුමාලා හදපු දෙයක් නැහැ. පොඩි වලක්වත් කපලා සෙල්ලම් බෝට්ටුවක්වත් දාලා නැහැ.
For $15 billion, we have projects which we have started, signed, contracted. Out of that, 2.2 billion we have disbursed during our period. And it is very clear, World Bank projects, ADB projects, JICA projects, COICA projects, every project is in this. And we also had to pay a huge amount of loans. What Mahinda Rajapaksa government had taken.
Honorable Cabral is leaving.
Yeah, he should answer.
Honorable member, please continue.
විපක්ෂයේ ප්‍රධාන සංවිධායකතුමා එතුමා කියනවා අජිත් නිවාඩ් කප්රාල් මැතිතුමා කතා කරන පස්සේ මෙතුමයි කතාව අහගෙන ඉන්න එතුමා උත්තර දුන්නේ ගරු විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නකට මොන ලෝකෙද කියලා තියෙන එතන ඉන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
Thank you.
ඔබතුමා වයර් මාර්ග කරන උදේ පාන්දර.
Now, the Cabinet spokespersons announced today that tax relief had been granted for the construction of a large-scale semi-steel radial tyre and total steel radial tyre factory for the country's export market. The Cabinet also gave the green light to a proposal by Minister of Education Professor G.L. Piris to establish 1,000 national schools across the country.
The decisions taken during the meeting of cabinet ministers last evening were announced to the media today. Among the decisions announced was the approval of tax relief for project proposal presented by the Shandong Haohua Tyre Company Limited of China for the manufacturing of semi-steel radial tyres and total steel radial tyres for the export market. Accordingly, 80% of the total production is mandatory to be exported. Meanwhile, a policy proposal to implement an appropriate program to establish 1,000 new national schools covering all divisional secretariats under 3 phases has too been approved by the Cabinet. A proposal presented by the Minister of Agriculture to cultivate a 1,000-acre of nutritive grass silage baling project at the Polonaru farm belonging to the National Livestock Development Board was also approved by the Cabinet. Meanwhile, the procurement procedure by the Ceylon Electricity Board to implement the Siamalanduwa solar power project through private sector investments has also been given the green light by the Cabinet. Approval was also granted to construct the power line from Madagama to Ampara by the Ceylon Electricity Board under the said project.
Now, following public outcry over a letter sent by Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, instructing Treasury Secretary S.R. Artigala to effect the closure of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, Cabinet co-spokesperson Uday Gammanpila stated that no closure can be done through a mere letter. The minister added that the only discussions held at the Cabinet meeting on the PUCSL issues centred on determining the PUCSL's effectiveness, its shortcomings and the importance of regulating its activities. Meanwhile, a coalition of public interest groups protested the move at a media briefing today, stating that the letter contained blatantly misrepresented facts.
Secretary to the President Dr. P.B. Jayasundara last week wrote to Treasury Secretary S.R. Artigala instructing him to take necessary measures to close down the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. The letter cited the need to create an efficient work environment to implement the country's power generation plan, which the President's Secretary says has been lagging behind for some time. The letter also says that with tariff and regulatory work being within the government's purview, the relevant provisions in the Public Utility Commission Act can be incorporated with the Consumer Affairs Authority and the Ceylon Electricity Board Act when the PUCSL is replaced. The PUCSL is the independent commission created to regulate the safety standards of the power sector, regulate the petroleum industry and water services, and uphold consumer rights. Following this, a coalition of electrical consumer organizations held a media briefing on the matter where the move was condemned.
ජනාධිපති ලේකම්තුමා ජයසුන්දර මහතා දෙසැම්බර් 1 වෙනිදා මුදල් අමාත්‍ය ලේකම්තුමාට යවන ලිපියෙන් එතුමා කියන්නේ සම්පූර්ණ පට්ටපල් බොරුවක්. එකක් අගමැතිවරයා තමන්ගේ අයවැය කතාවේ මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිෂන් සභාව අහෝසි කරන්න කියලා කිව්වේ නැහැ. එතුමා කිව්වේ විදුලි බල පනතත් මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිෂන් සභාව පනතත් සංශෝධනය කිරීමට අපි කල්පනා කරනවා කියලා තමයි එතුමාගේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති ප්‍රකාශය කළේ. නමුත් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ඒ කියන ලද කතාවත් විකෘති කළා මේ ජයසුන්දර ලේකම්තුමාට කිව්වේ මේක කෙලින්ම අහෝසි කරන්න. ඊළඟට කියනවා මේ මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිෂන් සභාව තිබුච්ච නිසා මේ රටේ විදුලි ජනන සැලැස්ම කාර්යක්ෂම විදුලි ජනනය කරන්න බැරුණා කියනවා. ඒක තාම පට්ටබල් බොරුවක්. මේ ජනාධිපති ලේකම්වරයා අපි දන්නවා ඔහු පළපොරුදු රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරියෙක්. එතුමා කොහොමද පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත වූ පනතක් ගොඩනගපු ආයතනයක් එක ලියුම් කෑල්ලකින් අහෝසි කරන්න මොකද්ද එතුමාට තියෙන බලය? ලේකම්වරයෙකුට ඒ බලය තියෙනවනම් මොකද්ද මේ රටේ ව්‍යවස්ථාදාය? මේ රටේ නීති හදන පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඇති තත්ත්වය මොකක්ද? මේ ආයතනය ක්‍රමවේදයන් 20ක් හැදුවා මහජනයාගේ පැමිණිලි විභාග කරන්න. මේ දක්වා පැමිණිලි 10000ක් විභාග කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිෂන් සභාව නියාමනය කරන කාලේ ඔවුන්ගේ දෘෂ්ටිවාදයට අනුව ලංකාවේ විදුලි බල පද්ධතිය ශක්තිමත් කරන්නේ නැත්නම් මේක අයින් කරාම කොහොමද තියෙයිද? ඒකින්ද හොරුන්ට කැමැති තාලෙන් හොරකම් කරන පාර හදාගෙන යනවා. ඒකින්ද අපි කරුණා කරලා මේ ස්වාධීන කොමිෂන් සභාව අහෝසි කරන්න එපා.
With that, the subject was also taken up during the weekly Cabinet media briefing held today, when the Cabinet co-spokesperson Uday Gammanpila confirmed that the Commission can only be dissolved through an Act of Parliament.
ජනාධිපති ලේකම්වරයා විසින් යවන ලද ඒ ලිපියේ පිළිබඳ ඊයේ අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලයේදී ඇමතිවරුන් ගණනාවක් අදහස් දක්වලා ඒ පිළිබඳ මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිෂන් සභාවේ කාර්යභාරය මොකද්ද? ඒ මේ වෙන විට ඉටු වෙනවාද? ඉටු වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ගත යුතු පියවර මොනවද කියන එක පිළිබඳ දීර්ඝ සාකච්ඡාවක් කරා. කොහොමත් මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසම අහෝසි කරනවනේ. ඒ අහෝසි කරන්නේ ලිපියකින් නෙවෙයි පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගෙන එන පනතකින්. ඒ නිසා මහජන කොමිෂන් සභාව අහෝසි කිරීමක් සිද්ධ වෙලා නැහැ. ඒ පිළිබඳ සාකච්ඡාවක් ආරම්භ වීමක් පමණයි වෙන්නේ. එහි කාර්යක්ෂමතාවය පිළිබඳ ඒ විෂයපතයට අදාළව කටයුතු කරන පිළිබඳ සාකච්ඡාවක් සංවාදයක් විතර ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසම විශේෂයෙන්ම ලංකා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය විදුලි බල නිෂ්පාදනය සහ බෙදා හැරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඒකාධිකාරියක් තියෙන ආයතනයක්. ඒ වගේම ලංකා කයින්ද තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාව ලංකාවේ තෙල් බෙදා හැරීමේදී වෙළඳපොළෙන් 92% පාලනය කරනවා. ඒතර අපිට කියත හැකි virtual monopoly එකක් පවත්වාගෙන යනවා. ඒ නිසා එවැනි ආයතන දෙකම ආණ්ඩුවේ ආයතන නිසා ඒ අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් ඒ ආයතනයේ නියාමනය කරනකොට ඒ සඳහා ස්වාධීන ආයතනයක් තිබිය යුතුයි. මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසමේ ඒ කාර්යය ඉටු වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒ අඩුපාඩු දුර්වලතා හඳුනාගෙන ඒ නියාමනය කිරීමේ වැදගත්කම් පිළිබඳ ඊයේ අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලයේදී දීර්ඝව සාකච්ඡා කළා.
We will see you shortly. Stay with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Attorney General's Department today requested the Wattala Magistrates Court to allow the post-mortem examinations of the deceased inmates of the Mahara prison riot to be conducted by a panel of experts, while taking into account the request for a fair autopsy by the attorneys of the aggrieved party.
The case related to the Mahara prison riot was called before the Wattala Magistrates Court this afternoon, following a motion filed by the complainants. State Counsel Nishara Jayaratna appeared on behalf of the Attorney General's Department and the Sri Lanka Police following a request made by DIG Ajit Rohana seeking assistance of a State Counsel to proceed with the case. Making submissions in court, she said there is a risk of COVID-19 spreading at the Ragama Hospital, where the bodies of the inmates killed in the Mahara prison riot are kept, as 8 of the victims had tested positive for the virus. The State Counsel went on to request the court to allow a panel of experts to conduct post-mortem examinations on these bodies, permitting the request made by the attorneys of the aggrieved party for a fair autopsy. She said the Attorney General had recommended the appointment of a panel of experts comprising of 3 senior judicial medical officers and a ballistic expert from the Government Analysts Department to conduct the post-mortem on the deceased. Making further submissions, the State Counsel noted that following the post-mortem, the bodies will have to be cremated in accordance with the health guidelines. Counsel for the aggrieved then requested an additional doctor from a university be appointed to the committee, for which the Age's department objected, stressing that nominations for the committee were made by the Director General of Health Services and the Government Analysts Department. Taking into account the need to expedite the process, the Attorney General's Department said if the court issues an order, a request can be forwarded to the President of the College of Forensic Pathologists of Sri Lanka to also make a nomination to the Committee of Experts. Meanwhile, Commissioner General of Prisons Tushara Upuldeniya and Police Media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana convened a media briefing this afternoon.
මෘත ශරීර 11න් 7ක් මේ වන විට හඳුනාගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ මරණ කරුවන්ගේ ඥාතීන්ගේ පාර්ශවයන් වෙනුවෙන් අධිකරණයේ නියෝජනයක් සිදු කළා වත්තලා අධිකරණයේදී විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ මෘත ශරීර සම්බන්ධ පශ්චාත් මරණ පරීක්ෂණ පවත්වන ආකාරය මෙම මෘත ශරීර සම්බන්ධ අවසාන කටයුතු කරන ආකාරය පිළිබඳව අධිකරණ නියෝගයක් ලබා දුන්නාම ඒ අධිකරණ නියෝගය අනුව තමයි මේ කටයුතු සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
Now, the government has decided to direct suspects taken into custody over possession of less than 2 grams of narcotics to rehabilitation processes via magistrates' courts. State Minister of Prison Management and Prisoners Rehabilitation, Lohan Ratwatta, stated that necessary legal measures will be taken following an assessment of the property damage at the Mahara prison during the recent unrest. The State Minister added that although the country has 29 prisons with a capacity of 11,000, nearly 25,000 inmates are currently incarcerated. He also urged the family members of the inmates to bear the responsibility of ensuring that the inmates do not repeat the offences following their release. We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, after much doom and gloom forecast in the past months, ratings agency Fitch finally has some good news for global growth. The ratings agency revised its global economic recovery forecast, predicting a strengthening in the middle of next year as vaccine rollouts begin and social distancing requirements begin to wane.
The global economic recovery will strengthen and become more sure-footed from the middle of next year as coronavirus vaccines are rolled out and social distancing starts to unwind, says Fitch Ratings in its latest global economic outlook. Fitch expects world GDP to fall by 3.7% in 2020 in its September economic outlook, despite expectations of renewed GDP falls in the fourth quarter in the Eurozone and the UK. Fitch revised up its 2021 global growth forecast to 5.3% from 5.2%, with stronger growth through the second half, partly offset by weakness in the immediate months ahead. US GDP is projected to expand by 4.5%, up from 4%, and China by 8%, up from 7.7%, but Eurozone growth is now forecast at 4.7%, down from 5.5%, as renewed lockdown measures take their toll over the winter months. Fitch has also revised up its global growth forecast for 2022 to 4% from 3.6%, reflecting the anticipation of reduced social distancing disruptions once immunization programs broaden. 2022 forecasts now also incorporate expected grant disbursements from the EU's Next Generation EU Recovery Fund, which are likely to provide a sizable boost to public investment, raising Eurozone growth forecast for 2022 to 4.4% from 3.2% in the September GEO.
Now, stocks closed 1.39% higher today, with the all-share price index crossing the 6,500 mark for the first time since May 2018. The ASP has surged 90.24 points to close at 6,564 points, and the S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks gained 62.12 points to end at 2,644.87. Now, here's Dimantha Matthew with today's share market report, followed by a currency update.
Today, the market bulldozed past 6,500 mark after 2.5 years. So we've again seen another upsurge in the market today, with the ASPI gaining by around 90 points during the day. The intraday gain during the day, which is 90 points, was the largest intraday gain that we've seen for around 5 weeks now. So overall, we saw a significant buying interest in blue chip counters emerging, with capital good counters leading the way. We saw heavy retail activity and high net worth and institutional activity coming into the banking sector counters in a big way. A large portion of turnover was also led by the banking sector. The overall market had around 4.2 billion of turnover, one of the largest turnover levels that we've seen in the recent past.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.